I'm going to start off here with a bold and declarative statement that no white woman in their late 20s has ever said before. I've been getting more into book talk lately.
5 books so addicting they kept me up reading all night long. These books are going to make you want to quit your job so you can stay at home and bed rot until you finish reading them.
I think American Republicans may have accidentally created the most banger TBR list of all time by adding all of these books to their list of suggested banned books in the US.
Since pumpkin spice season has officially started, here's some books that I think you need to read this fall.
I think for the most part, Book Talk is a pretty great resource if you're someone like me who used to really love reading and is looking to get back into it. The folks on there have great recs and resources for finding things that you like. But at the same time, books are in some ways the oldest form of entertainment, and I find the discussion of books and literary themes in modern social media spaces like Book Talk or even Twitter to be juvenile and incompatible with sort of everything we've come to know and like about the act of reading. And nothing illustrates what I'm talking about here more than the story of Jennette McCurdy. Just a quick PSA here before we get started. I am unfortunately going to have to censor certain words due to the nature of this video. I don't like doing it, but I would like YouTube to recommend this out so that people can see it. So if you hear certain words being clipped out, and if you see certain words being censored on the screen, that is why. I'm sorry.
Behind all the fame and glamour, McCurdy says, was a darker reality. Now, 30 years old, she's opening up about it in a new memoir called I'm Glad My Mom Died. In the book, McCurdy telling of a chaotic upbringing with her troubled mother, Debbie, who died from cancer in 2013. Now, as an adult, McCurdy is reflecting on her time on set, alleging inappropriate behavior, referring to one figure only as the creator, writing he offered her alcohol while still underage and that he gave her a back massage.
Jennette McCurdy made waves a few years ago with her autobiography, I'm Glad My Mom Died, which chronicled her fraught relationship with her mother throughout her childhood stardom. The book was great, extremely well written, and it satisfied the fascination and curiosity that a lot of people in my age demographic had about that particular era of Disney Channel and Nickelodeon shows. I've always felt that Jennette McCurdy's decision to get really intimate and personal in this book has been like a really brave one, and unfortunately I feel like I have to use that as a cheapening qualifier to defend her from this controversy that we're about to get into, and that sucks. Anyway, I'm Glad My Mom Died rightfully became a big hit, and apparently it's also getting a television series spin-off, which is sort of a wild development to me. But what's important here is that even though the book was autobiographical in nature, Jennette really established herself as a competent writer during this time instead of just an actor like we had seen her previously, and she expressed a desire in wanting to do more fiction writing. And she's doing just that with the announcement of her newest book, Half His Age, which will be released in 2026. The novel is set to follow a 17-year-old girl named Waldo as she navigates an affair with her teacher in Alaska. McCurdy says that it's a novel about sex, consumerism, power, self-discovery, as seen through the eyes of one very lonely teenage girl. She says she really wanted to write about sex. She wanted to explore consumerism, rampant consumerism, and its effects on young people, as well as the complicated aspects of desire. So people are being very not normal about this in 2 very specific ways that we're about to unpack here, and unfortunately we're going to have to talk about my 2 least favorite buzzwords that don't mean anything anymore: glamorization and media literacy. Okay, so the first argument that I've been seeing against the publication of this book in its current form is that based on the description, as well as the title and the provocative cover, it seems to be glamorizing an inherently predatory relationship. To get a better understanding of this argument, let's check in with the good blue checkers of X.com, shall we? One user says, she says it's about sex, but doesn't at all indicate that it's predatory. She never uses these words associated with a predatory relationship. Instead, she uses a sexualized book cover and says she wants to write about sex. Again, I could be, and I'm hoping to be proven wrong. Another user says, I feel you have to handle certain subject matter with kid gloves, so for a serious narrative meant to paint a dark picture, I think it would be best for her to consider that the cover seems sexually suggestive with the nature of the book. She should change it. So the problem here seems to be that unless the narrator of the book turns to the camera like they're in an Office episode and says this is a predatory relationship that is unhealthy and dangerous for a young girl to be a part of, it is therefore glamorizing the act. I hope I don't have to explain why that's pretty stupid, but in case I do, these people are quite literally judging the contents of the book by its cover and assuming that the problematic aspects of this dynamic will not be addressed, which in my opinion is ridiculous. A lot of what I'm seeing in this discussion boils down to the fact that what little we currently know about the book itself is discussed in sort of this flirty, sultry way, and I'm assuming that this is because she is writing from the perspective of the 17-year-old in question. To a 17-year-old engaging in this kind of predatory dynamic, they're not going to perceive what's happening to them as predatory or grooming and address the audience directly with therapy speak that acknowledges the wrongdoing here, because then that would make the point of the book pretty irrelevant. Why do these people want the protagonist to speak in this way? Why are you all baby-brained and unable to use context clues? As I said on Twitter, Weenie Hut Jr. is down the hall and to the left.
What weenies?
Would you care for another Diet Cola with a lemon twist, weenie?
What? But I'm not a weenie!
I'm sorry, sir, but my sensors indicate that you are indeed a weenie.
That's impossible!
You can't hide what's inside.
The other kind of common line of thinking that I've seen in this similar vein is that Jennette is writing this book as the equivalent of making CM, which is fucking insane. One, again, we haven't seen any actual text from the book, so assuming that whatever illicit material is in here is going to be framed as sexy is just a wild leap to me for so many reasons. Like, why do you just assume that this is going to be written as erotica for you to get off to? To me, that clearly doesn't seem to be the case. And I hate having to point this out because it shouldn't matter, but given what Jennette McCurdy wrote in her last book about the ways in which she has been harmed by predatory older people around her when she was underage, I would assume that grooming is something that she is aware of. Like, she's aware of how it works. And I would guess that she wants to explore those topics through fiction, given her firsthand knowledge of that traumatic experience. Say it with me, everyone. Depiction does not equal endorsement. So the next argument that I want to get into here in some ways informs the first argument surrounding the nebulous term that is glamorization. And that is the fact that when it comes to social media and consuming art and engaging with art, people tend to have this sort of meta commentary running in the background about how they will be perceived for consuming certain things. I call it letterboxed brain. And don't get me wrong, I am an avid letterboxed user. I love to see people's opinions and ratings and whatnot. But when it comes to problematic art like this, I think that sort of running perception and meta commentary has made people unable to sit in their discomfort when it comes to any type of fiction. So I want to start this section with a common critique that I've been seeing of this book. Why is the girl underage? Why couldn't Jennette McCurdy simply make the same book featuring a professor and a college student instead of a girl and her teacher? And my answer to that is, you are not owed comfort and security in the art you consume. I think this line of thinking coincides with the rise of the dark fantasy genre.
Beginner, intermediate, and advanced dark romance book recommendations.
These are the books I would recommend to you if you wanted to dip your toe into dark romance. These are the books I would recommend to you if you dipped your toe and are ready to go a little bit more.
He's a 10, but he bites your lip and then holds your head under shark-infested water. He's a 10, but he forces you into marriage with him. He's a 10, but he looks in your bedroom window at night. He's a 10, but he professionally follows you. He's a 10, but he tries deleting you from the earth multiple times.
So, dark romance or dark fantasy has become an increasingly more popular genre online, especially in spaces like Book Talk. It is a modern-day trope in literotica. A lot of times these books depict men, often masked for some reason, who have like a hostile or adversarial relationship with the protagonist. There's often an imbalanced power dynamic. It's not my thing, I'm not judging you if you get off to it. But the idea here is that you're able to enjoy the sexual taboos without shame because they're written in a way that is, meant to be enjoyed. So I think people are reacting to half his age in this harsh way because they find this dynamic, the teacher-student, the college student and professor, relationship to be sexy. It's a common form of roleplay. It's a trope that's been present in media for a very long time. To me, the people demanding that this same story be portrayed with characters that are of age reads, no pun intended, as the inherent shame of liking these dynamics, finding them kinky, and wanting to enjoy them in this guilt-free, ultra-personalized experience. And there's plenty of literature out there for you that accomplishes that goal. Like I said, it's currently a very popular thing, but this book clearly is not that. I would assume that age dynamics are important to the themes of this story without having read it yet. And if this book comes out and it's all like schlocky, creepy erotica with no self-awareness or nuance, then I will have happily taken this prediction back. However, based on Jennette McCurdy's previous work and established capability as a writer, I'm going to can my ego and moral outrage and just take her in good faith. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I encourage other people to do the same. Last thing that I want to address here is that I don't want to fault Book Talk entirely for how they react when they, see the announcement of these types of books being made, because I do think that the otherwise good-natured ecosystem has been poisoned with some really weird shit that makes people a little wary of certain topics. And sometimes, due to the nature of these social media algorithms that we review and discuss books on in particular, sometimes that material that is bad faith and schlocky often gets elevated and rewarded, and I don't want to appear ignorant to that fact.
Did you read this book? If so, I have a challenge for you. A lot of people became interested in this book because it was advertised as something that was so gory and gruesome that many people couldn't even get past page 40. If you took on the challenge and read it and read the entire thing and loved it and now are a new splatterpunk / extreme horror fan, I have a good recommendation for you and challenge you to get past this book I'm about to recommend.
There are tons of controversial books floating around on Book Talk that are typically lower budget, often self-published, and sort of gain a reputation on shock value alone. The Playground is one that comes to mind. If you read it, there's not much going on besides the author actively experimenting with how many ways the victims can get brutally saw-trapped on the murder playground. There's no critique of anything here. It's schlock. It's look at this edgy concept and look at me delivering on it. There are plenty of books out there like this where the author is operating in bad faith and just wants to write something gross. If it weren't for our social media algorithms, we'd probably be less likely to get exposed to this stuff that again gains its reputation not on its craft or its themes, but on its controversy. However, I think it's foolish to look at books like Jennette McCurdy's and automatically assume the worst just because of the harmful trash that is poisoning the rest of the online ecosystem and Book Talk in particular. I don't think everyone can hide behind or is hiding behind the "it's just art" defense, but I also believe that to assume that of every person writing about a controversial topic from the perspective of an imperfect or naive protagonist robs us of a lot of the introspection that comes with art that makes us uncomfortable.
I love you. It'll pass.
If you ask me for a list of the media that has influenced me the most in this life, especially while navigating adulthood, Fleabag is at the top of that list. Fleabag quite literally caused me to have a critically important breakthrough with my therapist. I'm not ashamed to admit that because media, as much as it is meant to entertain you, can also help you get through things by showing you what they look like from a perspective that isn't your own. Fleabag, the character, is not a good person. She is, for lack of a better term, problematic. She does bad things and treats people badly. She, generally speaking, is not to be emulated, but she also acts the way that she does for a reason, because she's hiding from something, she's running from it. She's allowed to grow. She's allowed to find love. Her redemption isn't perfect. It's a piece of art that's as flawed as it is human. There are no cinnamon bun characters that make lovable quips and tell the audience what's wrong with the situation as it's playing out in front of them. There is no closure for every single character within the narrative. It's a show that's about life and all of its grueling, unforgiving consequences. And that doesn't have to scare you. Ultimately, I don't want to make any sweeping declarative statements about the significance and importance of Jennette McCurdy's next book because I haven't read it yet, but based on the material that has been presented to me, I don't see anything that prevents me from giving it an equal shot and a fair chance. It might not be your Fleabag, but it might be some other girl's Fleabag, and I think that's enough to warrant its existence. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Reminder that you can subscribe to my Patreon for bonus weekly content for just $2 a month. I just posted a bonus weekend video about a certain Twitter controversy that happened, so if you want to check that out, the link is in the description down below. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh, also, How the Internet Fell Out of Love returns next week. I still have to make the video, and I don't know what I want to do for that, so if you have suggestions, leave them down below. I am so indecisive. It's so annoying. Bye!